funny enough, the house that we're going to talk about now is literally on the same street that I live on.
Okay. Yeah.
And I found it, we can get into it later, but I found it through a Facebook, like a Facebook group. And then the guy told me the address and I'm like, that's like 5 houses up the road from me.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. I read some of the information you provided to Jessica. Thank you for that. But you're in Pennsylvania. Now, I know I'll butcher the name, but how do you say the market you're in?
Du Bois.
Du Bois. Okay.
Yeah.
Du Bois.
And so that's where I'm at, in this little pocket of nothingness in Pennsylvania.
How
yeah,
far?
so we're about an hour and a half away from State College, where Penn State University is.
Okay.
And then 2 hours in the other direction is Pittsburgh.
Okay, so Pittsburgh, 2 hours. I mean, that is definitely rural. So I'll tell you, I really like rural towns for flipping. And in fact, the deal we're going to talk about you did is a very common strategy that I like to do in rural towns. The reason why I like rural is because, and when I say rural, what I mean is about an hour, ideally 45 minutes from not a major, it doesn't have to be a major city. It could be, but just a normal town. So for example, I got a house right now in about an hour and 15 minutes from Topeka, Kansas, north, almost to the border.
Okay.
The population is like 450. But I love it.
Wow, that's small.
Tiny little, like I did a sold search for sold homes and there were none for like 2 years, like none.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I even comp this thing? But I love it because what I can do is I can bring in the players in the cities and they'll go an hour away for a deal if it's a deal. They don't target there, so that's why you can get some amazing deals because they're not looking there, but they'll go there if you bring them there. So your marketing costs can be a lot cheaper. That's one idea, is bring cash buyers there. But the other idea that I like to do is take down the deal and then resell it. Because in those sleepy markets, even if it's 400 people, 1,000, 2,000, those quiet little towns, they have buyers there and agents. And when something comes up for sale, it's usually gone pretty quick because, even though it's small, there's hardly any listings. But when there is one, someone in that town buys it, Right. So that's a really great strategy to wholesale, buy it, resell it. So anyway, let's talk about that because I think that's the deal that you did. So you're out here in this rural town. Tell us, how did you find this deal? Well, first, let's back up a second. Tell us about how you got started in real estate and what your journey's been like. That's important to know.
Yeah. So I just really got started 8 months ago. And when I say started, I mean like consistently taking action. So I'd been interested for a long time, watched videos and, kind of gotten some real estate circles, but didn't really none of it really stuck. And so I kind of had to start all over again 8 months ago. And because of where we're at financially, our family, real estate for me is like what I'm hoping and praying is going to pull us out of where we are financially.
Yeah.
I didn't have like a marketing budget at all. So I connected with a mentor who's up here in Pennsylvania. He's been doing it for like 30 years. So he's really, knows Pennsylvania state law really well, et cetera, and the specific strategy that we're looking for. But he asked me, he said, well, what's your marketing budget? And I said, nothing. And
zero.
So he said, zero. And so he said, well, you're just going to have to do all the free stuff then. And one of the big things was posting in Facebook groups. So out here in Pennsylvania, like I had mentioned, there's like little tiny towns and villas and burgs everywhere. And a lot of them have their own Facebook groups, like buy, sell, trade groups and flea market groups. And so I literally just started posting in all the little villas and towns and burgs Facebook groups like, hey, does anybody have a fixer-upper that they need to sell? And so I would post a couple groups per day, try not to like flood all the groups all at once.
And these weren't necessarily investor groups. These were just marketplace groups or whatever groups.
Yeah, no, they're just like flea market, like people trying to sell their coffee table or an old pair of shoes or something. Like it's just the flea market type group.
Yeah.
And so then I would just post on Facebook. You know how if the text is short enough, it'll do the big colored background.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would do. I would just post like anybody looking to sell a fixer upper. And so every day, every other day, just post in another couple groups. Try not to like overwhelm the groups so that, I don't start getting flagged and blocked from all these groups. But so long story short, actually worked out really pretty well. Got a lot of leads from it. Started going on a good fair share of appointments. And eventually,
And what did
deal.
your post say exactly? What did you put on your post?
It literally said, does anybody know anyone that's looking to sell a fixer-upper? I think it said, I don't care if it's in rough condition or full of stuff. I'm not here to judge. Just looking, send me a message if you know of anybody. Something like that. That's basically it.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. How many groups do you think you posted in?
Oh, probably. Well, like before I got the deal.
Yeah.
It actually happened pretty quickly. So within, I don't know, 20, 30 groups. But now at this point, I've posted in hundreds.
Yeah.
It's still going on appointments and still getting leads. But this house was the first one that actually converted.
That's a really cool strategy that most people aren't doing or thinking about. I mean, it's really common to go on investor groups, but everybody there's looking for deals and talking about deals. So you're going to these outside groups that are just local people where they're participating, garage sale groups and neighborhood groups, and flea market
garage
groups.
Sale groups, flea market groups, buy, sell, trade groups, stuff like that.
Yeah. What a cool strategy. Okay. So you get this lead. So let's talk about this lead. What was the property like?
Yeah. So this house is like, it's crazy, man. So, it's like, it looks like it belongs in an episode of Downton Abbey. It's like this really cool house. It's huge. First of all, it's historic. Like a mansion. Yeah. Historic, like turn of the century mansion type of thing, like 4 levels, giant rooms everywhere.
What year was it built?
Late 1800s, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And apparently rumor has it was this tiny little town's like very first banker. And so it looks like it when you walk in, it's like, this feels like a banker's house from the 1800s. Like it's really cool. Like woodwork, stained glass windows,
probably like archways and probably like 10-inch trim. And I love those old homes. Those are so cool. And it's massive.
There was like a fireplace in every room.
Yeah.
There's actually a dumbwaiter that goes from the kitchen area up to the second floor, like with the pulley system. So you can send food up. Telling you, it looks like a Downton Abbey type of house.
Yeah.
So that part's cool. The problem is the house, probably has not been worked on since the 1800s. It was pretty bad. The owners, unfortunately, very rough situation, like a lot of motivated sellers.
Was it occupied?
No.
Okay.
No, except for by all of the stuff.
Yeah.
There was,
so it was full of stuff.
Oh, so much stuff. Like I'm touring the house with the owner. And you're like stepping on stuff while you're walking through the house, trying not to roll.
Hoarder house, major hoarder house.
Yeah, like shuffling, like squeezing down the hallway, pathway. That kind of a thing. Yeah. Well, a lot of times there wasn't even a pathway. Like you're just trying not to roll an ankle while you're stepping on stuff. So, and there had been some squatters in there too, like a couple years earlier. And you could see like their bed where they were living and there's trash everywhere. And it was really hard to see the beauty and the potential of the house because it was just so, it was bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So major hoarder house, you walk the house with the seller. So the seller must have lived nearby or been local.
Yeah. That's the thing about these towns, man. Like nobody ever leaves. So he just lives down the road the other way. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe he had some vision one day of fixing it up or, who knows, right? But
yeah, he actually lived in it, I think like 20 years prior. And that's that's something I'm learning, man. Like talking to these motivated sellers is there's often a heartbreaking story attached to why they are even talking to you.
Yeah.
Right. To begin with. And so
almost always there's a story. Yeah.
Yeah. So they lived in it like 20 years ago, started raising their family in it. But then his parents got sick. And so he had to move in with them to like take care of them. Mm-hmm. And then since then, for 20 years or whatever, the house just kind of fell into disrepair. They had rented it out once or twice, but eventually, I guess, just became like a storage place. And then there were squatters. So it was vacant for like 10 years before I walked through it.
Yeah. But think about this. That's the nature of putting yourself out there in a marketplace through whatever means. In your case, it was posting on these groups. Here he is. He sees your post. He's like, yeah, I got this property I'd love to sell. So it's like all the stars align. Like part of me and everybody watching this is probably thinking, well, man, that was just luck. But you get luckier and luckier the more you're in the game. If you get off the sidelines and you just get out there and put yourself out there, it's amazing. The deal of a lifetime will come around like once a week. You know what I mean? If you're in the game. If you're not in the game, then you don't get lucky ever. But if you're in the game, you just tend to get lucky.
And what's crazy is this deal of a lifetime, I honestly thought was no deal. Yeah. Like by the time I was done walking through the house, I literally walked away going, there's just nothing we can do. Yeah. Because in these tiny little markets like ARV, which to your point is kind of hard to comp sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean, they max out at like 100,000, 150,000. And so I'm walking through and I'm using everything I've learned from you and other YouTubers as far as like questions to ask and trying. I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go. And one of the things I asked him was, how much do you think it would cost to, fix this place up and bring it back up to speed? And he was saying it'd probably take $100,000 just to get it up and running. But if you want to really finish it out with all the nice finishes and all this stuff, because it's this Downton Abbey type of house, probably 200,000.
And I don't.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Like, I'm not a construction guy. I don't know anything. Literally, the only thing I know about rehab costs are your YouTube videos where I watched you like break down heavy, medium, and light. Right. Yeah. So he tells it. I'm just taking his word for it. Like, okay, this is going to cost $200,000 to fix up this whole house. ARV when it's done might be 120. Like, it's just there's just no way, right? Yeah. And so I literally was going to walk away, and be courteous. I was going to call him later and say, hey, there's just unfortunately nothing we can do here. So what ended up being this really cool deal where we netted like $30,000 in profit immediately. I was just going to walk away from it.
So Jason, I mean, what did you buy this for?
Well, you're not going to believe me when I tell you. It's going to sound like this whole story sounds made up, right? This magical Downton Abbey house, and there's just no way. Well, let me tell you. So he wanted $5,000. He wanted $5,000.
$5,000.
Right. And given all the things, so we get to the end, and that's when I was like, there's just nothing we can do here. So I walk away. I'm talking to this mentor that I hooked up with, and telling him about a few houses that I had seen that week. And I brought this one up just kind of for conversation, but I had already written it out of my mind. Like, there's just nothing we can do here. I was telling him about the house. I sent him some pictures, and he's like, well, I don't know. Maybe there's something here. He says, I don't think we could do $5,000, but if he'll come down to $1,500, we could probably do something here. So literally, Jerry, I prayed and I just asked God. I said, God, I don't even know. Like, I'm super nervous about this. Like $1,500, that seems like a lot. I asked God, I said, can I have this house for $500? I had heard about people buying properties for $500, like in these rural markets. I'd heard of it. Yeah. And so I'm like, God, I just don't even know about the numbers here, et cetera. Yeah. Can it be $500? And so I agreed to go meet the seller a second time at the house. So we go to the house a second time, and literally my sales strategy to like close the deal was I literally just told him the truth. I told him, I said, hey, here's the honest truth. I was going to call you back this week and just to be courteous, tell you that there's just nothing we could do here. And it was, I'm really sad to say, et cetera. I was talking to a business partner of mine, my mentor, he is my business partner. He's the one who put up the money for the whole thing. But he said that we might be able to do something here, but we're not going to get anywhere near $5,000, and you're really not going to like the number that we've come up with.
Yeah.
And so he says, well, just tell me what the number is. He's like, just wants to be out. And I said, you're going to want to punch me in the face when I tell you that, it's so insultingly low.
Which what you're saying right here is a very common strategy that I use when I lowball. I'll say things like, are you sitting down? I'll say things like, man, I don't even want to tell you my number because it's so offensive that I'm just embarrassed to tell you. And what it does is it softens the blow. It preps them, and they're kind of like, okay, well, I get it. And it allows you to just become real that, hey, I might not be the right buyer but here we are talking. So if you want to know, I'll tell you, but I'm embarrassed to tell you how low my offer is, kind of thing. So it's a very great strategy to humanize your lowball offer, right?
Yeah. So I must have picked that up from you, because it came out of somewhere when I was talking to him. And so, he just kept saying, just spit it out. Just tell me what it is.
Tell me what it is.
And I said, well, normally houses like this in markets like this and conditions like this, we can pick up for usually about $500. And then I just let it sit. And he looks around the house. You can tell he wasn't super happy about it. And he says, "Can you do 1,000?" And I turn and I look at the, like, all the stuff. And I literally just went like this.
Nope.
And he cut me off and he said, "You know what? Forget it. Just $500. I don't care. I'm done. I just want done with this house. You can have it for $500."
You bought a house for $500.
$500. Yeah. A turn of the century mansion. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like you couldn't even, you can't even put into words like the replacement cost alone for a house like that.
Oh yeah. No way.
You know what I mean? Like it would cost $50,000 to just put the same trim, or, you know what I mean? Like it's just insane. Yeah. But that's what happens in certain markets. I got to tell you a really funny story, Jason. You'll find that you'll really relate to this with your story. So there's a lot of deals when I first got started in Detroit, in the city of Detroit, that are very much like that. Like, the house maybe in the best scenario is worth $75,000 and it needs $125,000 in work. And it's got no value. Like there's just no value to it. And so that's kind of common in some markets, low price markets, where you can have a house where the repair and the lot value isn't really worth much either. So like, what do you do? Nothing. So I had this deal, and this seller, I meet the seller at the property, and I'm standing there. I don't even go in it. I'm just standing there looking at it. And I'm like, no way. I mean, it's burnt down, roof gone. I mean, terrible area. And I'm just like, so I just say in joking, I say, you know what? I gotta be honest with you. You would actually have to pay me to buy this house. Mm. And he turned to me and he said, "How much?"
What? Wow.
So I said, just to take this, I would need you to pay me $5,000. If you paid me $5,000, I would take this house off your hands and figure out what to do with it. Mm. And he wanted, I don't know why he didn't just like let it go to tax auction or whatever. He said, "Done. I'll pay you $5,000 to take this house."
No way.
So then he pays me $5,000. Well, I don't want this house either. So I call up someone else and I say, "I'll pay you $2,500 to take this house." So I netted $2,500 doing a negative wholesale deal.
No way. Wow.
But,
that is so cool.
So anyway, so I understand where you're coming from, where you're like, man, what do I do? We're this far off with the condition and values in this area, but you're still had some value. So you buy this for $500. Clearly you don't need to do an assignment. You take it down, right? You buy it. Mm-hmm. And then now what are you going to do? What did you do to then resell this property?
Yeah. So that's another cool part of all of this is I didn't actually pay for any of this. So when another like fun fact about this whole deal is I didn't spend any money on any of the marketing, any of the purchase price, the closing costs. I didn't spend any money. It was technically my business partner mentor, right? So,
okay.
So we sign it up and then we buy it, close for $500. If we have time at the end, there's a really interesting thing I learned there in that experience that has reshaped how I think about all this. But closed on the house, $500 check, paid it off. But now we got this house that's just like full of stuff. And I mean, dumpsters and dumpsters and dumpsters. So we paid about $2,000 for a local junk removal crew to just come do the whole thing.
Did they do dumpsters or truckloads?
It was a local guy who used his own trailers. Yeah. So he didn't actually use dumpsters. They were just trailers.
Yeah. There's no way you would have done it for $2,000 with dumpsters. So he hauled it. Yeah. Yeah.
And a part of it, I think, is like because I got some quotes from people who were kind of outside of the area and they all wanted anywhere from $3,500 to $10,000.
Yeah.
But part of it is because this is in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And so they're like, man, I got to drive 2.5 hours just to get to the house with my crew. So they're like, yeah, it's going to be $10,000, but they found a local guy who does like junk removal and handyman stuff. And so he did it for 2,000.
Okay.
And took him a couple weeks, his crews and all that, and they got it all cleaned out. But then there's trash and debris everywhere. So my family and I actually just went over to the house one day with a garbage pail and a bunch of bags and brooms. And so we had a little pizza party and everybody was sweeping and my niece was helping out. Like it was just, we all kind of a family affair kind of a thing, and just cleaned the whole thing. So now all the junk's out. The whole place is cleaned up. I mean, it's still a fixer-upper. It needs a lot of work. Yeah. But you can at least now see, like, oh, wow, this house is really awesome. Like,
as character, I can walk through the rooms. Yeah.
Yeah, you can envision. So the way that, so also when we sold it, I literally just posted it on Facebook, and I borrowed some signs from my business partner mentor. He had a few extra like yard signs because I didn't have any money for my own. Yeah. And I just got some white duct tape. In fact, here it is right here. I got some white duct tape and duct tape over his phone number, and then put my phone number in Sharpie. Yeah. So I put the signs out, put it on Facebook with the intention actually at first to owner finance it. That was that's the thing that I'm trying to do. Like you've talked about becoming the bank. Like that's really what I'd like to do, is have a portfolio of notes and things like that. So that was the intention. Owner finance. Again, we bought it for $500. We're all in probably about 3,000.
Excuse me.
After junk removal and closing costs and that kind of stuff, 4,000. And so we marketed it at $29,900 or $30,000.
Yeah.
Right. So owner will finance. I put it on Facebook Marketplace and just started posting in some of these groups. And little did I know it would become like a full-time job over the next 48 hours to respond to all the messages and phone calls.
Wow.
Because the whole area went just bananas. Like I had no idea how many people wanted to buy this house. It was crazy, man. I literally was just tied to my phone like for 48 hours answering messages and answering phone calls and all.
Why do you think they went berserk over it? Just because it's a cool character, special kind of icon maybe in the neighborhood, or what? Why did everybody like it?
What's so funny, man, this is such small town life, is like everybody already knew that house.
Yeah.
Like they already knew it. So a lot of the messages were like, oh, I remember when so-and-so used to live there. And is that the house that so-and-so grew up in? And like, oh yeah, I passed that to work every day. So what's funny is everybody already was familiar with the house and knew it. I got a couple messages from people that say like, oh yeah, I used to do sleepovers with their kids. Like when they were little, like it's just, everybody knows everybody.
Small town. Yeah.
Small town, man. But yes, because the house is so unique. It's not like a cookie cutter. I mean, it literally feels like you're walking into a Downton Abbey. I mean, fireplaces everywhere.
So how did you decide on a buyer? What was your best offer?
Yeah. So immediately, people start making offers. Of course, we get some lowball investors who, say, yeah, it's a lot of work, blah, 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 blah. I could probably do 20 cash, something like that. We have it marketed at 30. But then we had other people who said, yeah, hey, this sounds great. We could put a down payment, etc. A couple of people said, I'll be willing to pay over asking price because of the financing. Like I'll go up to 40, I'll go up 35, 40. But then there was this one family, local business owners. They actually owned the pizza shop, down the road, who have had their eyes on a house, a fixer-upper for their son, who's in his 20s or something like that, who come from a background of construction, and the wife loved the house. I mean, like she wanted the house so bad. Mm-hmm. And so we get to talk, and I really like them. We built some rapport. This is amidst the hundreds of messages I'm answering and phone calls. Essentially, he said, we can do all cash asking price. I'll pay $30,000 cash. And my response was, I don't know. I've been getting a lot of I've been getting a lot of offers on the house, some cash offers. Some other people have already gone above asking price because they're interested in the financing. I said, what is your ceiling? Like, how high would you guys be willing to come up all cash over asking price before it's like it's too much and you'd want to walk away? We went back and forth a couple times and he wouldn't give me a number. And so I'd said, like 35, would you come up to 35 all cash if just to get this thing done? And he said, yes, we would. He says, that's about as much as we'd want to go because it does need a lot of work. And truthfully, it did.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, let me check. I can't promise anything, but let me check with my business partner. I bought the house with him and let's talk. So then I did. I gave my business partner a call and he was just like, sounds good. So yeah. And I was just honestly, I was grateful to turn off the fire hose from Facebook and the phone calls. Like I just wanted to get it done because I did not want to answer any more messages. Like I was swarmed. So yeah. So long story short, they closed $35,000 cash. And because we were all in at like, $3,000 or $4,000, we netted over $30,000. Yeah. Keeping in mind, we didn't fix anything. We didn't repair anything. We literally just cleaned it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the trash out. Yeah. Wow. What a cool story. I love that story. Jason, that's one of my favorite stories I've heard. I just love that. I just love how you did that deal. That's
Thanks,
really
man.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm super excited now because guess what I have now?
What?
A marketing budget.
There you go. Right. So did you split your profit with your partner? Is that what you did?
Yeah. So we split 50-50. So I get basically 15, he gets 15. But now it's like, all right, I actually ordered my first signs. So I got some bandit signs coming. Going to start sending out some direct mail. And man, this feels freeing. Like we're cooking with gas now. Like there's no more I'm going to keep posting on Facebook because that's been good. But I'm like, all right, Lord, let's go. Like, let's get some momentum going.
Well, if you can reinvest your profits back into maybe some education, into software and tools, and definitely marketing, like you said, that's gasoline on fire now with growth because now you can move forward so much faster. Definitely still work the free methods. Like in my business, we do lots of free methods and paid methods, and it all kind of works together. It's just thinking now, how do I scale, right? The more people I can get in front of, the more offers I can make, the more deals I'll do, the more money I'll make. And if that's always at the forefront, then you're going to keep moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah.
But that first deal, that proof of concept, and then I think it's so smart that you're reinvesting back into the business. That's how you 10X is you reinvest.
Yeah. So what would your advice be as far as how I should spend my first $15,000?
Well, don't spend a lot of it. I think the best investment's in yourself. So if what you can learn, new skills you can acquire is going to be extremely valuable, you still don't want to dump a lot of money early on into marketing because until you have your processes dialed in, what you don't want to do is have the phones ring and then you can't manage it. And I made this mistake. I did a direct mail campaign early on. The direct mail hit the ground all at the same time. And now my phones blew up and I'm missing calls. I don't know what to do with people. And it ended up being not a good use of money because I just wasn't ready for the influx from the marketing I spent money on. The last thing you want to do is spend money on marketing and not ROI, as best you could. So, maybe that's one deal and you're ready. Maybe it's 2 or 3 deals and you're ready. But just go slow with spending money on marketing,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Jason, love that story. Guys, leave a comment and say, Jason, you're a flipping genius. Really cool story. Love your energy. Jason, you got tremendous energy. I think you're going to do really well at this business. I can feel your heart in it. Like you're bringing some passion, you're bringing some positive energy. If you can keep that going and present that to sellers, people feed off of that. They love that. More than anything, people want to do business with someone they know, like, and trust. And I think you've got a real knack for that. So you're going to do really well at this business.
Thanks, man. That means a lot coming from you.
Well, I'm excited to see your journey. So please keep sharing with me what you're doing, how you're growing.
Sweet, man. Yeah, awesome. That means a lot coming from you. I'm highly, highly encouraged.
Cool. Well, Jason, thank you again for the time on this video. Loved talking with you about this and loved your story, loved your energy. So thank you so much. And please keep in touch with me. Tell me all the things that you're doing. And guys, if you haven't, leave a comment, say, Jason, you're a flipping genius. And we'll see you on the next video.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.